Welcome to webtrans, a web-based transcription tool. Today we're going to review the interface and do a brief transcription demo. So I am at webtrans.ldcresearch.org. I'm logged in and I'm going to click continue in the action column to return to this task. So this is actually about a half-hour recording of a publicly available podcast, Fresh Air. We're going to give it a moment to load, but I've already done some preliminary work in this file. Just to take a peek here, we have my username because I'm logged in. This is called a kit ID. Right here is the task that I am in. File name shows up here above the waveform. This null, you'll see those change to timestamps as I make selections or match up with segments here. Here's some playback options. You're going to default to just the 1.0, but you do have some options to play faster or the 0.8 if you need to slow something down to hear a little better, since you want that word for word verbatim transcription. This is our submit button. This tells us what mode we're in, and our keyboard icon, which also helps us navigate back and forth from the waveform and the text window. See, I can make it highlight green. Here's our waveform. Anytime you see a blue bar, that represents a segment, a portion of the audio that contains human speech, and you see that also represented down here in the text window. And the timestamps corresponding here, beginning and end of this particular segment also shows up nice and large here. You see the timestamp ruler here to tell you where in the file you are, and a scroll bar here in red. I can use my mouse to jump around. I can scroll in with the text window bar. And I can also change from cursor mode to window mode with W and use home row keys to jump around as well. You do have plenty of options here, and the keyboard is your friend. So like I said, I have already been in this file. I ran automated segmentation, in this case, what we'd call ASR, which is automatic speech recognition. And that is going to give me this preliminary transcript that I can then edit. This was already run, but if I wanted to run it from a fresh file, I could press H from the waveform while this keyboard icon is highlighted to bring up the help menu. Then I have the option to click 4 for services, and I have the option to click 2 for ASR. 1 for SAD would be just the speech activity detection to create segments with no preliminary transcript. I pressed H to go back to the main menu. You also have the option to press 1 to see details on navigating the waveform. 2 provides more info on navigating the text window. And pressing 5 would open the transcription guidelines in another Chrome window. I'm going to hit H to exit. Those transcription guidelines are going to be useful for clarifying verbatim transcription of the text and markers, but we're going to focus on the tool itself today. So I am going to navigate to a different spot in the waveform in the file itself. I know the specific timestamp I'm going to, so I'm just jumping down here to the text window and scrolling. So I've clicked into this text segment and you see the corresponding segment on the waveform is highlighted. If I want to play this, I can then edit the text in the text window. I'm going to do Tab and Spacebar to play this.
Have there ever been consequences when someone overshared about you?
And you see that green playhead ran till the end. You got little timestamps here telling you more. ASR was run here. I'm going to make sure I add my punctuation, and I'm okay with any capitalization here. I could edit these words if they weren't quite right. I also want to just make sure no speech was cut off by the segmentation. So I can either drag the boundaries of the segment. We're aiming for about 0.10 seconds, which is really just about halfway between these large tick marks and these small tick marks. These large ones default to 0.05. The idea is just to prevent any speech from being cut off. And it's also pretty snug here. So I'm going to actually change my mode here to end. I'm going to do Tab and E for end. Use the K key from the home row keys and just do C to return to cursor mode. So I'm happy with that. I'm gonna click off of this. I see something here on the waveform that wasn't quite caught by the ASR, the automatic segmentation. So I want to see if that is any speech I need to worry about. I'm gonna move my view with window mode, just move a little bit. I used my home row keys there to adjust. And I am going to just use the spacebar to play and pause here. See if this little spit on the waveform is something I need to worry about. Before I do that, I do see that I did not add a speaker tag here. So I'm going to do Control S from the text line, and I can type B to tag that as the interviewer doing that speech. So I return here, press spacebar,
No.
and I just press spacebar again to pause. But I did hear speech here. I'm going to click and drag to create a segment, hit enter,
No.
and that will create the segment permanently. You see that blue bar show up there. I heard the subject speaking there. Gonna type what I heard, tag that with subject. And then if I wanted to continue on listening, I can hit enter from the text window to move to the next segment.
That would be really hypocritical.
So now I'm just going to demo here what I would do. I'm going to capitalize this as the start of a new sentence, but I did hear some laughter, so I'm going to add a marker there to indicate that was said while laughing. These are far enough apart that I'm not worried about merging them. There was no misspeech here. I'm going to play that so you can hear. If these were closer, I might end up merging with the M key just to make sure nothing's missed. So for me, if I had just finished transcribing, I'm going to do my speaker tag and move on. Okay, here's an example of where the automatic segmentation actually created a segment for something that is not speech. I'll play the whole thing here for you by clicking and dragging and spacebar. This is a selection and you see it show up here with the timestamps. So I'm going to just do Control D to prompt the deletion, and I click the red delete button to confirm. Okay. Moving on, I'm gonna play this next segment. I just highlighted it from the text window, but you can also click from on the waveform, this blue bar.
So I have to ask you about your dog, Gary.
So this is the interviewer again. I'm gonna add my speaker tag and use my home row keys just to adjust there. That was the F key, some little increments, and the K key. We'll do a nice little jump here to get us close to that 0.1. I don't think this is anything to worry about. If I was suspicious, I could select and play, but I'm going to go ahead and play this. I could play the next segment from here with the enter key.
Who's now a kind of famous dog, and you use him as your profile picture on Twitter.
So I'll add my punctuation, make sure my boundaries are okay. I did hear a partial word here that I'm going to add.
Now, a kind of famous.
And I'll use a restart marker as well, since she did not continue to say famous, but restarted there. Gonna make sure I'm done my speaker tag. Gonna move with window mode so I can see this whole segment in one view. And I'll hit enter to play the next segment.
And he's
I do wanna make sure my is lowercase. And we have a repeated word here, so I'm gonna add my marker for that. You see that the word uh, is not the last word here. What is listed?
what kind of dog is he?
So here, automatic speech recognition did include this in the wrong segment, but that's fine because we're going to be merging it anyway. Otherwise, I would copy and paste. So I'm going to, from the text line, do Tab and M to join these segments into one. There's now no gap in that blue bar. If I click off of it, you see that the text is now in one. I'm going to extend my segment, add my question mark. This was another restart, so I'm going to add that. And I'll move with my window mode to adjust. And again, just a reminder, you can play the waveform with the spacebar. And hitting the spacebar again will pause it. I'm going to do Tab, spacebar to play this.
He is a French bulldog.
That was the subject. I'm going to tag that. And I'll hit enter to play the next segment.
And
Okay.
he's right here in the studio with me.
So this is an example of where there's really less than a nice half a second cushion. These big tick marks are the half second. So I do want to merge these to make sure that no speech from the subject was cut off. Different speakers will run that risk differently. I'm going to do Tab and M. If I was already on the waveform, I could have just done M. I just did Tab to get back up there. And I did hear the interviewer speak here, so I do want to make sure I include all speech, but give the interviewer their own segment.
And he's
Okay.
right.
So I use the selection to just click and drag, create a new segment, tag that as the interviewer. One thing we didn't go over is splitting. If I wanted to split this because there was actually a large enough gap or it's a different speaker, if this whole portion of the automatic speech recognition was actually the interviewer, I could have just split here and created two separate segments. I'll show you that now. So instead of M for merge, it's really just the comma key. Will split wherever you're hovering your cursor. So I'm going to do Tab, make sure I'm up here on the waveform. You see my red guy, and I'll do a comma to split that. Okay, so now this is split in two. You see a break here in the blue bars. It's blank because all the text will stay with the original. I can copy and paste if there's something that I wanted here to actually be here. And since I changed my mind, no, that's actually not what I want to do. I want that all to be one. I'm gonna do my merge again. So on the waveform, I can just hit M and it will join with the very next segment in timestamp order. So I do want to be mindful of that. But that's it for the demo of the transcription itself. The tool is going to save automatically. There is no save button. When I am done my file all the way to the end, and I've reviewed what I need to, I can just hit the checkbox here. This is our submit button. I can hit done. If there's something I need to note about the file, I can do so here. There are options to make a note about a problem either with audio or a portion of the file maybe not working quite right. I'm going to hit escape to get out of this because I'm not actually doing that right now. But that's it for the overview. You're always welcome to review the full tool guidelines for more details. That's available via a web link and of course also still via that help menu. Those are here. And you can also check the transcription guidelines via the help menu as well, or a link. Those are the ones mentioned here, open guidelines. And of course, always double check with your team lead or supervisor for guidance on specific projects. Thank you and good luck transcribing.